Hello, everyone, and welcome to Your Healthy Dose. It's a podcast about current trends in healthcare. I'm Kim Douglas, your host for the day, and today we have two very special guests in the studio to discuss an important subject. These women are both breast cancer survivors, and they're here to share their personal experiences and their perspectives. And I myself am also a breast cancer survivor, so I'm really looking forward to this discussion. Let me welcome Perline Lang and Susie Rodriguez Shapiro. Thank you both so much for being here.
Thank you.
So let's get into this today. And I know for me, sometimes I'm like, oh gosh, I don't know if I want to talk about this. And it's still, after, for me, 4 years is very emotional. And it's interesting to me how I can be absolutely fine. And all of a sudden someone starts talking about it and boom, you tap right back into where you were when you first heard the words. So tell me, Perline, we'll start with you, where you were first diagnosed with breast cancer, and was it from a routine screening?
2019.
Okay, not long.
Exactly. 8 months after my husband passed, 1 month after the birth of my third grandchild, I got a call from my primary care doctor letting me know that I had breast cancer. Well, you can imagine, several things went through my mind.
Yeah.
But he got me through this. And I got diagnosed with breast cancer through my normal screening. I had missed my mammogram appointment, and my doctor's office called me and said, hey, Perline, you were supposed to have a mammogram last month. You need to come in. And I said, okay. So I did. And the interesting thing about it is that breast cancer runs in my family. So I do my regular self-breast examination. I did not feel a lump, nor did I see any change in my breast. So I did not know that I had breast cancer. So had I not gotten that mammogram, I may not be here today telling you my story.
Wow. What about you?
Well, for me, it was a little different in that I was just taking a shower, and as I started to soap up under one of my armpits, I felt a golf-sized lump that had just, to me, appeared overnight, because in my shower the previous day, it wasn't there. So I got a little panicky, and I pushed, and I didn't feel any pain or anything like that. And when I got out, I called the doctor's office to just say, I have felt this golf ball thing. What should I do? And I was able to go in and see my primary care physician the next day. But in my mind, I think I already thought, this is not good. And so the whole cancer thought came through my mind, but I quickly dismissed it. So I went to see the doctor, and they said, this looks like it could be cancerous, so let's get you. So then the whole process started to go get the mammogram and the biopsies and all that. So it wasn't a complete shock when they called to confirm that, yes, it was cancerous and we'd have to do something about it. So from there, I just said, okay, and I turned myself over to God.
Yes, and then we start on the journey, don't we? How long ago was yours?
Mine was the end of 2020. It was the end of November 2020.
So you both are very recent, in my opinion. I'm 4 years out, and like you both, especially like Perline, I never felt better. I was great. Everything looked the same. There was no changes. And unlike you, Susie, I had done the breast exams, and there was no bump. I didn't feel a lump or anything. And, I'm having my green juices, and I'm doing my walks, and I'm not really a drinker, and I never smoked, and I'm married, and I have all the little check marks that you're supposed to do. And so when I did go in for my, after 3 years of missing it, mammogram, and Dr. Cheryl Ross from St. John's called and said, we found something. You what? You what? This can't be, I'm healthy. There's no So that started my journey, and I started out with stage 0, and after came out of surgery, came out with stage 3B. So tell me about your prognosis and your treatment.
Yes, I was diagnosed with stage 3 DCIS.
Oh, me too.
The cancer had spread from my breast to my lymph nodes. So my treatment involved 8 cycles of chemo, 3 to 5 hours every 14 days. Once I was done with chemo, I had 3 lumpectomies. After the third one and the pathology report came back saying I still had cancer, I decided to have a complete mastectomy. So once I was done with the mastectomy, I had 6 weeks of daily radiation treatments. That was...
I know. No one tells you. That was, I felt like I did the same as you protocol, 18 and a half weeks of chemo and 7.5 weeks of radiation. And I'm not kidding you. I felt like the radiation was almost, if not worse than the chemo. Did you feel that? No?
No, I did not.
So
I had a
radiation was-
very abnormal experience
Why?
with chemo. And my experience with chemo is that I didn't get sick. And when I say I didn't get sick,
What did you do?
a couple of things happened, but I did not have the nausea or anything like that. What happened to me is that the chemo made my appetite ferocious.
What?
Exactly. I ate
You are
during chemo.
Anomaly.
Before I even went to my chemo treatment, I would sit back and think about what am I going to eat after my chemo treatments. Okay. So again, my oncologist, Dr. Nishikubo, she warned me. She goes, Pearline, if you're gaining weight, I'm telling you right now, it's going to be very difficult for you to lose that weight, but that's good. The only thing for me is that I had to force myself to rest because I'm a very active person. And I had to listen to my body. So when my body says, Pearline, I'm tired, I don't want to do anything, I sat, I rested. And as far as radiation was concerned, I did not suffer anything other than discoloration in my skin. That was the extent of my side effects with chemo and radiation.
I'm in awe. Do you have a hotline to heaven? I need the number. Wow. I have a lot of friends that have gone. No one has your experience. No one I know has had your experience.
But you have to understand, like Susie, once I got diagnosed with cancer, I believe in God. I got down on my knees and I prayed for him to heal me, give me strength, give me support, give me guidance. And once I got up from saying my prayer, a sense of calm came over me, saying, you're going to get through this. It's going to be hard, but you're going to get through this.
Faith can definitely get you through. It did with me too. I love that story. Wow. I was green. I couldn't eat at all. I lost 17 pounds in 3 weeks and I couldn't keep one thing down. And if my husband mentioned food, I was like a maniac. I was like, don't mention it. I couldn't smell anything. I couldn't taste anything. I had metal taste. What about you? Were you like Pearline?
Well, no, I didn't have much of an appetite, and I'm not a runner or a walker. And so for me, I just felt a lot of fatigue.
Me too.
When I had the chemo, it was exhausting because sometimes it was a short 2.5, 3 hour, and then sometimes it was a 7-hour ordeal. And so that was kind of frightening. I always did take snacks with me to chemo so that I could nosh on little bits and pieces. And that was helpful. But when I got home from chemo, I was just very tired. And one of the things that I found interesting was that my husband is a nature buff. And so because of the pandemic, we had just bought an RV. So he figured out our cycle through my chemo so that the few days that I was really sick, I was home, not doing much. But then in between, we would get in the RV and just go up and down California. which was very restful. And I also, as we were speaking about faith, I have great faith in God, and I called upon God to hold my hand through this. And I felt that support, and it helped me lose my fear. And I also stay very focused on the positivity of it. And I was very grateful that I was diagnosed with this and not one of my adult children. So for that, I thought I can cope with this a lot better than if it had fallen on one of my kids. So just, with the faith and positivity, I feel it helped get through the chemo. And the radiation I didn't find so bad during the treatments. It was after the treatments were over that I started having all the side effects about the burnt skin and trying to get rid of all of that.
Yeah.
But the team at St. John's was just fantastic.
Yeah. Tell me.
I was saying to Perlene the other day that I just felt like all of them had one patient in the whole hospital, and that was me. They were all Team Susie. And you could feel it. When I come in, they were very uplifting, encouraging, very supportive. They'd explain things about what was going to happen. They answered thousands and thousands of my questions. And that, I think, makes a big difference, to feel that you can trust your medical team and their skills, their professionalism, their empathy. It was just fabulous.
I agree. How about you?
I can't put into words the care that I got from St. John's. From the moment that I got the call from my doctor Stanley Hubbard, and
Shout out.
yes. And when he told me that I had breast cancer, he goes, "Perlene, I got you." He goes, "I don't want you worrying about anything." He goes, "I'm going to pull together a team of doctors that you can trust, that you feel comfortable with, and they'll get you through this." And I would say 2 weeks after having that conversation with him, I get a call from my next team at St. John's. And that group was the nurses, the schedulers, and the scanners. Now, I'm pretty sure, I don't know about you two, but the schedulers were awesome. They were patient. They were supportive. They scheduled my appointments on days and at times that were best for me. The technician, like Susie was saying, every technician that I went to, because as you both know, it's scary when you're getting your body scanned from head to toe several times. But the technicians, they were so patient. They explained everything, the complete process to me. They explained it until I was comfortable, because you need to be comfortable with the people that have your life in their hands. You need to be able to trust them. And I had an awesome experience.
I love that. I think you're so right. For me, I, believe it or not, had, no hair and green and no eyebrows, no eyelashes, and went straight from radiation, literally across the street here, to a studio to be on camera. And they had every morning, according to my schedule, I get there at 7 a.m. I walk in, takes like 10 minutes and out. And they just worked the schedule around you rather than you feeling like you had to work around them. What kind of resources did St. John's provide for both of you?
They provided a binder from the Margie Peterson Breast Center. This binder contained a host of information. It contained information about my doctors, the type of treatment that I would be receiving. It talked about, the chemotherapy. It talked about the type of breast cancer that I had. It had radiation information, support groups, if you needed to go to a support group or counseling, dietitian information. In addition to that, it had a glossary in it that I used a lot that contained information from the American Cancer Society. I went to that website a lot to get information on the type of breast cancer that I had, treatment options, resource information. Even though I didn't have a problem with food, I wanted to get books that would help me eat healthier. So the American Cancer Society website had reference books for me that I was able to order books and change my eating habits so that I was eating healthier.
How about you, Susie?
Well, I also received the binder that I found very useful, and I went home and devoured that binder overnight. But it's also overwhelming, the amount of information that was in there, and I found that I was writing questions and making notes in the margins so that I could go back. But the other piece that was very helpful was, this was, for me, was all going on during the pandemic, at the height of the pandemic. So it was very odd in that for my conversations with the doctors, whether it be Dr. Grumley, my surgeon, or the oncologist, or the radiation doctor, my husband couldn't be there with me, or no one else could be. So they ended up recording all of our conversations, and then at the end gave me a USB that allowed us to be able to go back and get answers or clarification on things that we had understood maybe a little differently. And my husband was able to be dialed in because he was outside the hospital waiting for me because of the pandemic. And he could ask his questions. But as you know, two people can experience the same thing but walk away with different. So the USB was very helpful. And I found that the most important thing was that given the pandemic and given the overwhelm of having a diagnosis about cancer, the team found a way to accommodate so that my husband still felt he was included and I felt supported and I had the answers I needed. I also was able to go on websites to get a little more information. And actually, in talking to friends who had experienced it years before was very helpful, because it also gave me encouragement knowing that technology and research had come a long way and that my chances were going to be okay.
So great. I love the part you said about the USB. I was a few years ahead of you, as we had mentioned, and I do remember one of the first times when I went in and initially, and it was stage 0, and then after the surgery, I was in a meeting, and they said, well, we have news. We went in double mastectomy, and we found that you have stage 3B. And seriously, I've never been in war, thank the good Lord, but I felt like bombs were going off, and my head just started exploding. And she kept talking. This was a different situation, but she kept talking, and I didn't hear anything because I had just almost like was above my body, because you just can't believe these words. So I love that you both are sharing that you had great experiences and great pieces of information. You also were telling us the medical support that you had from St. John's. How about the emotional support?
The emotional support. I mean, I got so much support from my doctor, starting with my oncologist, Dr. Nishikuba. I had questions. My first question, I was really surprised. I had texted her, and she called me back within 10 minutes. She goes, Perline, are you okay? And I go, yeah, I'm okay, but I have a question concerning this. She was so patient. She didn't, and she was so patient, but all of my doctors were patient. None of my doctors rushed me. And that's important, especially me as a Black woman. I was concerned about the type of care that I would be receiving for my cancer. And every single one of my doctors, Dr. Grumley, my surgeon, she went out of her way when, after the third lumpectomy came back and I decided to have a mastectomy. She goes, Perline, do you have a plastic surgeon? I go, no. She goes, okay. She goes, would you like for me to refer you to one? I said, yes, please. Within 30 minutes, she had called her friend, Dr. Grumwall. Dr. Grumwall, I'm getting a little bit emotional. Dr. Grumwall came in that day, on her day off, to meet with me and to go over what she could do for me. That is the type of care and support that I've gotten from St. John's, from all of my doctors.
Dr. Crunwell was my doctor too, and she did the same thing. And yeah, they're very special there. They really are. How about you, Susie?
I felt very supportive also with people coming in. What became a little difficult was because everyone was wearing masks at all time, it got a little more difficult to physically recognize people, but the voices would immediately. And I was getting a lot of help from Nurse Becky, who was very helpful with mind and wellness to help me, stay present. And to this day, I'm still doing some writing workshops that help to do the writing. And what I have found interesting about the writing is a lot of the journaling that I've done throughout the whole process. Now, when I look back at it, it's almost like I'm looking at someone else's story. And I think it's odd what my mind did with it, which is to kind of compartmentalize it. And I went through it, but now I'm looking back and thinking I got through it. Mm-hmm. So it's not just surviving, but thriving. And that encouragement has sometimes helped me even encourage my friends who think they're calling to console me, but they end up falling apart.
I know.
And then you have to kind of say, it's going to be okay. It's going to be okay. So with the help, like getting something about your mental wellness, the nutritionist, offering you therapy if you need it, just whatever you needed, I knew I had a place to call, and they would point me in the right direction.
Well, Perlene, we have a lot in common because going off of what you just said, Susie, my husband also passed away. Mine was after cancer diagnosis, yours was before. But it's so true what Susie just said. People would call up and they'd be, Kim, you have been through so much. Oh, it's terrible. It is and they were supposed to be cheering me up. And I'm the one going like, it's okay. I'm doing all right. So it leads me to our next question. And that is, how important is staying positive and surrounding yourself with positivity in this journey that we three went through?
I think positivity is it. Pity was something I never wanted. And whether it was via Facebook or Instagram, the social media, I would tell my friends, I want prayers and positive vibes, no pity. And I just found that I've always thought it could be worse. No matter what I was going through, I'd fall back on it could be worse. The fact that we went through treatments that are as just so challenging, I think at least there are treatments that are helping us. And I recognize the fact that survival rates were much better now because of the fact that technology and research has done so much for us.
Yeah.
So I just found that staying positive, without that, I don't think I could have come through this as well as I have.
Agreed. How about you? I know we talked about the importance of faith, and positivity ties into that, Perlene.
I agree 100%. I had a mindset that I was going to be positive throughout my journey. I felt that being positive was the only way that I was going to beat this breast cancer. You have to understand that I have 9 living brothers and sisters. I did not tell any of them that I had cancer until I had to have my mastectomy. Like Susie, I didn't want anybody looking at me, feeling sorry for me, or pitying me. Because, again, who am I to say that this shouldn't happen to me? Okay? This was my time, my season for my challenge. It's staying positive is important. I just want to share one story with you. It's when I finally told one of my girlfriends that I had breast cancer, she had come over. And as soon as I told her I had breast cancer, she burst into tears. Okay. And, I let her cry for a minute or two.
And then you weren't crying.
I was not crying.
Okay.
I was not crying. And I told her, I need you to pull yourself together. Okay. You need to pull yourself together because I just want people around me that is going to have a positive attitude as well as energy. I go, Other than that, you need to leave. I go, you come back, I need you to come back correct. And she did, okay? Because, again, staying positive is critical. I don't have time to boo-hoo me, okay? I need to be strong. Not only do I need to be strong for myself, I needed to be strong for my family. And that was important to me.
I love it. And you're absolutely right. And I think people truly think that that's a response they have to give. When you say you have breast cancer, everybody I knew just burst into tears. And it was just, I'm like you, Perlene, like, I don't want you crying, you
have to go.
But
Kim, if I can just add one
Please.
thing, that, on the day that I noticed my hair was falling, that was here we go. The doctor had already told me about when to expect it. And again, I decided this is just part of it. So I went in the bathroom and I just started cutting my hair myself. And I just thought, it's just hair. And I was shocked that I did this with no tears. And then my husband came in and he, was helping adjust mirrors and such. And he was being supportive about, you look great. You look. And to women, hair is so important to us. But I got through that part of it. And I think that, again, just staying positive. And once I clipped all my hair off, my son had sent me a hot pink wig that was just really wild. And so I had my husband take a picture of me, just my bald head, and then a picture of me with the pink wig. And I posted that side by side on Facebook and Instagram. And I said to my fellow followers, I said, this is my new chemo look. And I just felt that was my way of staying positive, my way of owning what was happening and not feeling sorry for myself. And just, this is it. And what I also found from it, aside from all the well wishes, was people that were coming out and saying, I have cancer too, in a whisper, I have cancer too. And it just kind of let it be an opening to talk.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, wow. Great story. And I want to see a picture of you in that hot pink wig. Sounds really good. I should have done that. So let me find out from both of you what brought you to St. John's Health Center and any other additions that you want to talk about regarding your experience.
Well, I came to St. John's basically because I live in the area. St. John's has always been my hospital. I've had 3 children there, and I have faith in them. My primary care physician, when the diagnosis came back, Dr. Sizer, he said, I'm going to refer you to Dr. Grumley, who I think is great. And if you were my sister, that's where I would send you. So having Dr. Sizer's endorsement meant a lot to me. And from then on, everybody just shined and it was great. So I felt that as long as I was cared for here at St. John's, I was in good hands, not only medically speaking, but spiritually speaking.
So important, so important. How about you, Perlene? What brought you to St. John's?
Again, like CZ, my doctor, he had been my doctor for 25 years. And so he put together my team of doctors, Dr. Nishikubo, Dr. Grumley, Dr. Wallman, my complete team. However, before I had breast cancer, St. John's has always been my family's hospital. When my son got diagnosed with a pulmonary embolism, again, my doctor, he came and here and he had an x-ray done. And the next day he called me, Perlene, I think I see something in the x-ray. I want you to have an MRI. The doctors at St. John's were amazing. You have to understand, none of them had egos. I met with the surgeon, and he goes, Perlene, I'm a good surgeon, but your son needs the best. He goes, I can refer you to another hospital where they pioneered the surgery that your son needs. So, again, I have trust in this hospital. When my parents got ill, and I had to bring them in from Vegas, I took him to see my doctor again. That night, he says, Perlene, I need you to take your mom over to St. John's immediately. He examined my father. They were both ill. And he had me bring both of my parents over to St. John's. Again, I get a little bit emotional because this hospital went out of their way to make sure that my parents were comfortable. Even though the hospital was crowded, they found a room where both of my parents could be together. They hadn't been separated in 50 years. And they found a way where they can be in the same room to care for both of them. So my relationship with St. John goes beyond my breast cancer. I trust this hospital, that this hospital will provide you with the care that you need.
It's wonderful. And what I love that you both mentioned is you didn't just say it was the medical. It seems like it's the, receptionist, the valet, did you have experiences with anybody besides the wonderful doctors?
That was the one piece I wanted to pipe in and say
Please.
that everyone from the moment you arrive and the valets take your car to going through security, and again, because of the pandemic, there was extra steps.
Intense.
Everyone was as accommodating as they could be. And for in and out of the different procedures that I had to have, whether it was to insert the port, remove the port, do the breast surgery, the chaplains were always there. And I'd have them come in before surgery and after surgery to give gratitude for the success of what they had just done. But everyone that I encounter at St. John's, even if you're lost, they'll point you in the direction. Because I may have had 3 children there, but the hospital has physically made a lot of changes. So I just find that the whole team there seems to be in favor of making sure the patient feels comfortable.
Wow. Same with you.
I agree 100%. Yeah. I mean, again, I'm just going to elaborate on the valet. The valet, they knew my name the second week that I started radiation. And they would, like you, they would park my car because, again, it would only take 10 minutes and say, Perline, they knew my name. They greeted me with a smile. Okay. And they parked my car in front so I didn't have to wait when I was done.
You. Wow. Wow, that's great. Okay, let's move to a little bit of a different stage, and that is everything you went through. How did it feel when you first got the results that you were cancer-free?
Well, I have not cried very much throughout this whole thing, and which is shocking because I'm a crier. But when I got that notification from Dr. Grumley that I was now cancer-free and no evidence of cancer, I cried. Gratitude. I was just so grateful. And I felt like I wanted to get on top of a mountain and shout to other women, it's going to be okay. And I know that a lot of people used to think, and maybe still think, that cancer is a death sentence. And I want to say that it is not. We all have different outcomes and different processes that we may go through, but you have to stay hopeful and you have to stay positive. And that's what I want other women to understand. And when you get into different cultures, that makes a big difference. So when I'm from Mexico, and so the Latino culture is very family-centric and very typically very faithful in their religion, but not very self-centered. It's usually about the family. So I think that it's important for women to know the importance of getting exams, of staying on top of that, of checking their body, and knowing their body so they can see when there's a difference, and then doing something about it instead of just, no, this will go away, no, this will go away. I'll just pray and it'll go away. And no, you need medical intervention to go along with your faith.
Absolutely. And one thing that I often say to my girlfriends that are going through things like that is, you can't pour from an empty vessel. And it's really true. You can't give to others if you're empty yourself. What about you? You heard, Perline, you're cancer-free.
I think I stopped breathing.
And went for a long, long walk, right?
Well, that's another story.
Yeah.
But I was overwhelmed with happiness. I knew that with everything that I had gone through, I'm now going to be here to see my grandchildren graduate, to see my grandchildren get married. I can't put into words to this day what I felt. I just felt happy, and I just thank God for letting me be here another day to love on my family and to be here for my friends and family.
Yeah, great. So if you had some words of wisdom to give to women that haven't gone through what we have, things that people don't know about living through breast cancer and coming out the other side, what would you say to them?
I would say pay attention to your body and then get medical help if in doubt. Believe that there are resources available to help. Ask for help and accept help, because I think too often we don't want to trouble anybody. We don't want to burden anybody else, but it's not a burden. I mean, our friends want to help. And again, during the pandemic, I had friends that were dropping things off on my porch because they couldn't come in. I had people mailing me things. There was this one blanket that someone who had been through chemo had sent me that became what I call my whoopee. And even now that we're past it, I still use that for comfort. But just accepting help from others and making clear that you don't want pity.
Yes, absolutely. Do you agree, Perline?
I would agree. Again, what you have to understand, just because you're diagnosed with breast cancer doesn't mean you're going to die. If you immediately get the treatment that you need, you can survive it. You can, even when I had breast cancer, while I was going through breast cancer, I chose to live my life. And what I mean by that is that I completed 4 half marathons. And with the assistance of my doctors, their staff, and my running club, the LA Leggers, I completed the LA Marathon because I chose to, again, think positive and to live my life. You can have a fulfilling life even though you're going through this. And the fact that I made it to the other side, is a testament to that.
Absolutely.
So I would say, it's difficult, but you can get through this.
How important do you guys feel breast cancer screenings are?
As you know, if it wasn't for me going and having my regularly scheduled mammogram, I would have never known I had breast cancer. Mammograms saved my life. So I cannot emphasize that enough. If you have the ability to get this, and if you don't, there's several organizations that you can reach out to get it.
Yeah,
they
resources.
will help you.
Yeah.
Resources that will provide this service for you.
Agreed. So let's have both of you address and talk about the need for raising awareness in the African American community and the Latina communities.
I think it's very important that we raise awareness because people don't typically want to pay attention to their aches and pains. They're too busy taking care of everyone else in the families, everyone from their own adult parents to their children to the grandchildren. And so you put yourself way on the back burner. And I think it's very important that people understand the urgency. And let's face it, mammograms are not pleasant, but they do save lives. And I was getting my mammograms all the time, but like I say, my thing just popped up overnight. So I was real glad that there's the mammograms that were able to help the doctors figure out where it was. And then after surgery, they were able to say, it looks like we got everything that we knew was there. You have clean margins. So I think that it's just very important for people to understand this. And again, culturally, women tend to be shy or, no, I don't want this. I don't want a doctor to look at me or I'm deformed, whatever. Just get it taken care of so you can live a better life, so you can continue taking care and loving your family. I'm thrilled that I'm about to have my first grandchild next Wednesday here at St. John's. And I pay attention to the fact that, thank God for the treatment I received, that I'm living to see my first grandchild. So it's important. Get out there and get your tests done.
Congratulations on your grandbaby. And how about you in the African American community?
I would say this is very difficult for me to discuss because you have to understand all my adult life, I have had access to good doctors where I've gotten great care. But that's not the case for most African Americans. And you have to also understand that most African Americans are distrustful of doctors in the medical industry. So, but we have to somehow educate them, help them to get over that fear. And if me sharing my story helps someone, great. And again, as I was sharing with you, they need access. They need follow-up. They need treatment. And sometimes that's not the case. So, but if they are able to get this type of help, get mammograms, I think it will save a lot of lives.
Absolutely. Well, you two have been amazing. We're going to close this up, but before we do, I'd like to hear from both of you just some words of wisdom to women or people listening about your journey, about what you went through, or about what you learned from what you went through. Give us some words of wisdom, Perline.
Some words of wisdom.
Yeah.
I am not good at that. I am a very shy person. So this is difficult for me. But all I can say is if you have faith, you can get through anything. Pray, share with your family, love on your family, and you can get through it.
It's great. And it's so true. How about you, Susie?
Yeah, I would say that, again, my mantra was faith over fear. And you have to have faith in your medical team. You have to have faith in your higher power. You have to have faith in yourself. You have to have faith in your family and friends. And so if you can stay on that positive track, it really makes a difference in how you overcome the good days and the not so good days. But you do get through it. And now that I'm on the other side of the treatment process, I say amen to everyone who has been a part of helping me survive this and living a better quality of life now. So faith over fear.
I love that. Well, let's put our hands together as 3 strong survivors of breast cancer and women that were loved and taken care of by St. John's.
Amen.
And
Yay.
go on, power on, right? Well, that's about all the time we have. And I just want to say thank you to Perline and Susie for being here and sharing your personal stories with us. It certainly helped all of us. And we're so grateful that you were here. We also want to say thank you to the St. John's Health Center Foundation for making this all possible. And thank you for joining me. Until next time, I'm Kim Douglas with your Healthy Dose.